We have 3 items on our agenda for our public meeting this evening. The first one will be a presentation on our proposed street vendors bylaw, which is a new item of legislation that we are looking to incorporate into our town's process. We have some consultants from MRSB here, Mr. Alex McBain and Ms. Melissa McDonald, to present to that. Next on our agenda will be Mr. Dale McKeegan, our esteemed Director of Planning, to present some bylaw text amendments regarding firewalls or fire spacing, as it may soon be known, should Dale get his way. Last, but certainly not least, will be a planning presentation by Ms. Sarah Kennedy of our planning department with respect to a proposed special permit use within Kelly Heights Phase 3, being 6 stacked semi-detached dwellings spread across 2 PIDs, being 882-084 and 897-124. So, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here in person or online. I'll just go over some housekeeping items in terms of procedure as well as decorum as to what we expect, how this meeting on 3 separate items on the agenda will roll out, and what we expect of presenters, and also what we expect of those attending and commenting. Firstly, if you wish to comment formally on anything from tonight's meeting, the town will accept written responses provided directly to the planning department by email or in writing until 12 p.m. on Friday. It says January 31st, 2025. That's wrong. That's it'll be this Friday.
This Friday, yeah.
Which is March 7th?
Yes.
All right. I believe so.
Yeah, that one's a bit quiet.
Test.
Yeah.
Are they catching that? Okay. March 7th, 2025. Please note the comments provided on any social media platform are not captured as part of the written submission process. As I noted, there's 3 items on our agenda. After each application has been presented, there will be an open floor for any questions or comments on the applications. Questions via social media will be monitored and submitted to be read into the record and answered. To ask a question online, please use the comment field on either our YouTube or Facebook pages where you are viewing the live stream. As this is a public meeting, you are required to provide your name and address when asking a question. Before I turn the microphone over to Alex and Melissa of MRSB, I just want to make a general statement with respect to meeting decorum. To keep this meeting going in a smooth and orderly manner, the following practices and customs are going to be observed. Comments and presentations ought to focus on the nature of the merits of the likely consequences of the proposed applications, must avoid the personalities or motives of the applicant. Comments should be focused on the application on hand and not on prior application proposals or any prior dealings you might have with individuals within the town. All comments and questions are made to me, myself as chair, who will then decide who is responsible for answering those questions. There shall be no direct debate between members attending the public meeting. Members attending this meeting should refrain from disturbing the assembly when presentations are being made or questions are being discussed. And presentations are going to be limited to 5 minutes for individuals or 10 minutes for groups. A request for additional time may be made by myself and considered by myself. So at this time, without further ado, I would like to present or welcome their presentation, Alex and Melissa of MRSB, who have been so diligently working with Mr. Scott Cornell of our office on proposed street vendors bylaw.
Very good. Thank you for the opportunity to present here. We're just going to cover off some of the engagement activities that we worked through and summarize some of the key items that are included in this draft bylaw. So we began this engagement in August of 2024. Part of the process included a jurisdictional scan of 10 similar municipalities within the region. We had interviews with 2 of these municipalities. We had interviews with 4 existing street vendors from other areas. We held a public open house in October, ran a public survey with 149 responses. We had a meeting with a wider group of town staff, and we had regular correspondence with the steering committee for the project. Some of the key considerations that went into the development of this bylaw were defining the types of vendors to be found in the town, locations, allowable hours of operation, waste and litter control, unsightliness, noise, permit fees, duration of fee or of permits, and then the application and approval process. So the bylaw is intended to be kind of guardrails for operations. Applications are going to be made to the planning staff of the town. In terms of vendor types, they're all encompassed into the definition of a mobile vending unit, which is a motorized or non-motorized establishment that offers goods for sale. And goods are further defined as goods, services, wares, merchandise, and does include food and beverages. From there, they're separated into two classes. So Class A is anything with a motor, kind of intended to be larger street vending establishments. Class B would be more pushcart style or bicycle trailer style establishments. Some of the key exemptions include smaller operations like yard sales, lemonade stands, and then any kind of fresh food, fish, or forestry products. So there are different locations where these operations will be allowed depending on their class type. So Class A is going to be allowed only in the parking areas of municipal property or on private property with written approval from the property owner. So under this, that would be like a parking lot with a letter of permission from the owner of that land. Class B, the smaller ones, it's written so that they're only allowed on the trail system of municipal property. And that municipal property are the 5 parks that are listed on this slide. Safety was a major consideration for locations, so anything that obstructs or interferes with traffic or the entrance or exit to existing buildings or businesses is prohibited. And part of that is a 15-foot spacing from an entrance or driveway or parking lot entry. And then overnight operations, so between 10 p.m. In the evening and then 8 a.m. the following day, operations are generally prohibited. With regard to waste and litter, sightliness of the site, there's provisions in there for waste receptacles, daily maintenance of these waste receptacles, some noise regulations if the operator is to use a generator. And we have specific reference to the noise and nuisance bylaw and the dangerous and unsightly premises bylaw that already exist. So as I mentioned earlier, the Planning, Development, and Heritage Department is going to assess the applications and issue permits. We have the 2 classes of permits. Class B has a seasonal option from April to October. Class A, there's occasional, seasonal, annual, and special event. And these are designed so that the street vendor can apply to the permit that's most applicable to what their intent is. The fees are listed there on the slide. They were designed so that there's somewhat of a balance between street vendors who come in and have access to the town property and contribute to the town, but also with businesses that exist here and contribute to the tax base of the municipality. Requirements of applications would include contact information, description of the goods to be sold, plan for the site, and some other additions like fire marshal inspection, general liability coverage, an emergency management plan, and a few other things that are found on the application, which is attached to this bylaw. So as a result of this engagement, the output here was a bylaw, which is being presented here and is available in full on the town's website. The application form, which is part of the bylaw, and then a technical guide that outlines kind of interconnections between this bylaw, existing town bylaws, and provincial legislation. So thank you to this group for giving us the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Alex. So at this point in time, what I will do is I will open the floor for public comments for those who are present here in attendance in person, and then check with our planning staff to see if there's any comments online. So I will open the floor at this point in time to anybody who may be looking to solicit more information from Alex or Melissa on any of the considerations with respect to the mobile food vendor bylaw. Okay, sorry, sir. Yeah.
Yep. So I have two questions that came up.
So just before you do.
Yeah. Chris Inman,
Thank you.
14 Georgetown Road.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, sir.
So you mentioned that there were 149 bits of feedback. What were the results of those?
So I have that document here. They were, I would say overwhelmingly, that might be overstating it, but the vast majority of responses were in support of the provisions that ended up being included in here. So, just looking through some of the questions, we asked, when do you think they should be allowed to operate? And we said, gave the option of a limited time during the year, only during special events. 73% of respondents indicated that they should be allowed to operate at any time throughout the year. So that's one example. Most of the responses that we received were supportive, and I think the only kind of caveats to some of the responses were addressed through the creation of this draft.
And was there a question on whether or not people felt comfortable with them in the parks versus commercial areas?
Yes. We asked within which areas street vendors should be allowed to operate. The options were commercial locations, residential areas, community areas such as parks, community areas such as parks but only during special events, or not at all. The top response at almost 85% was commercial locations. Second highest response at 66% was community areas such as parks.
Okay. And you mentioned in some of the parks it will only be on the trail system. What does that look like?
So the operate like the motorized units, they'll operate within the parking lot of the park. The ones that are run through the trail will be the push carts.
And so will they be able to be right up alongside of the trail?
In theory, yeah.
Because my understanding as a cyclist who uses the trails all summer is that with people being at a push cart like that, there'd be lineups, there'd be, some people around. Generally, they would choose to stand on the trail rather than the grass. So it would then cause a disturbance to those people trying to use the trail.
Yeah, okay. We could look at making sure that we make sure it's not within the right-of-way of the trail.
Definitely. And I guess my other concern would be in terms of generators, a lot of people use these parks for peace and quiet and to bird watch and to enjoy a nice quiet conversation with somebody they're walking with. Generally, from what I've experienced, is that there is a fair amount of noise that comes from either the trucks or even a push cart if they needed a generator to keep a freezer going or something like that. And I just was curious to know if that was, factored into the decision making.
Yeah. So we did look at that, and we looked at keeping the generator under the 60 decibel mark. That seemed to be the more comfortable. That's recognized for most food trucks around there. There is also an option for the food trucks to basically connect through Maritime Electric to electric systems. One person that is interested will be looking at doing that.
Cool.
And that's on their service to provide. It's not through the town to provide that, but
I think that would be, 'cause 60 decibels is still pretty loud.
Yeah.
So I guess I would just finish by saying I would be all for them being in commercial spaces such as the business park or, the soccer fields, things like that, but I don't think I would support them being in, like Fullerton's Marsh is gorgeous, and to think of it with vendors throughout it just doesn't seem like a, you know, a nice idea for our parks. We have a great boardwalk down by Esso now. I think that would be a great option. There's a big open space there. I think that would be a great space for it, but something like Pondside Park or Fullerton's Marsh, I really think it would kind of really ruin the natural aspect of it. But that's all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
Sir, I really want to appreciate those comments. I think they're very well reasoned, and rest assured we'll absolutely consider that in looking at the bylaw again, seeing if we can incorporate those suggestions in a meaningful fashion. Excellent points, so I really do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sir, yes, please.
I just want to make a quick comment. My name's John Pritchard. I'm 84 Newland Crescent, Charlottetown. In regards to the generators, yeah, generators generally do cause ongoing disturbance. More and more generators now, though, are being made inverter generators. Will take you well below the 60 decibel mark. Then there's also the option of electric generators, right? Battery banks, which a lot of food trucks are using in other places now. My other question is about maritime electric service, which would obviously be the most sort of efficient, cost-effective way and less disturbing way of getting energy to power these trucks. The one concern that from a vendor's point of view would be if this service was to be brought down and channeled or brought down by to a mast somehow, that's quite a sizable outlay of cash for a semi-permanent sort of solution. Would the town, do you think, be able to or willing to entertain the idea of contributing towards that kind of infrastructure, being that if that vendor wasn't going to be there for longer than a season for whatever reason, whether or not it didn't work out from the town's point of view or from the vendor's point of view, that infrastructure would still be in place for other purposes that the town could use or another vendor could use? So in effect, having an open account sort of brought to use.
Here's what I'll say, I guess, at this point is that we'll certainly take that into consideration. It may be something that in certain areas, for instance, that may be something that the town wants to invest in terms of creating some central location where a number of multiple vendors may be able to access like a public utility on that basis. Maybe. I certainly can't, or at least at a minimum, not that I say I won't, but I can't at this point commit to doing that type of investment, but it's not a bad idea. And it may be something that in the right circumstances, in the right places within town, I won't commit to it certainly everywhere, it may be something that we can look at.
Sure, it's just, it seemed like something that could be used for ongoing multiple
Exactly. Right.
multiple uses.
Yeah, so if in the right spot, you know, if we're seeing year over year, multiple applications for a mobile food vendor in a certain location, for instance, where noise is an issue in a particularly sensitive way, then it may be worth having a look at that, for sure.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, I might have a question if that's okay.
Sure.
So one of the concerns I have as a counselor certainly is we recognize the significant investment of you know, so-called traditional brick and mortar establishments within our municipality. We recognize, you know, it's a significant investment to come in to run an establishment 24/7 or at least all year long, and to invest in our community in the development process and provide very valuable tax revenue to the town. So I appreciate that there's a fee structure in place, and that certainly covers part of that issue. But is there any consideration, and I believe that it's somewhere in the draft bylaw, but I might just get you to point me to the side in saying, is there any restrictions on locations, for instance, with respect to being too close in proximity to certain food establishments or anything of that nature?
Well, so in the commercial aspects, the vendor has to get permission from the commercial REIT company to get before they're gonna go into that area.
Okay.
seen in other jurisdictions where they've created a little food truck park, and that's under the REIT company to do that, so.
Okay.
I would assume that they would have to go around their own vendors before they approve doing that themselves.
All right, thank you, appreciate that. All right, I understand that there is nothing coming in online, and no correspondence has been received from the public on this item. So I do want to appreciate very much the presenters here this evening, as well as all of the work of our planning staff, as well as our consultant partners on getting it to this point, as well, specifically the comments that we received here in person. Democracy doesn't happen in the darkness, and it can only really work if people come and participate in it. So I really appreciate the comments that we received tonight. So in terms of next steps, written comments will be received until 12 p.m. on Friday, March 7th by email to scarnall@townstratford.ca or hand delivered to the Town Center Planning Department. Planning Board will meet for discussion and make a recommendation to Council on Monday, March 31st, 2025. Council shall meet and consider a draft resolution on April the 9th, 2025 for a first reading. And if passed, Town Council will meet on Wednesday, May 14th for a second reading and adoption should it make it that far. Thank you very much, folks. I'll adjourn this portion of our public meeting this evening and move on to our second item on the agenda. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate your comment, appreciate all your work. Next item on our agenda, planner's presentation regarding zoning bylaw text amendments regarding firewalls or an updated version of that name in semi-detached dwellings within all areas of our town. Presenting tonight is Mr. Dale Keegan, our Director of Planning.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. So this amendment is a text amendment to our zoning bylaw. But before I go into the actual text amendment, I want to give you just a little understanding of what's going on for this bylaw amendment and why. So the proposed text amendment is a housekeeping amendment to section 8.26.2B, as in boy, of the development bylaw that is intended to more accurately describe the separation wall that is required between semi-detached homes and their units when they are intended for subdivision into separate units. Council's intention with this provision of the bylaw is to provide some level of fire protection between units that is above and beyond the minimum that is required by the National Building Code. It was brought to the town's attention that the current text of the bylaw called for a firewall to meet the requirements of the National Building Code of Canada, which has never been the intention of council, as such a wall increases the cost to build and changes the look of the building. Instead, and at least for the last 10+ years, the town has been directing developers to build a fire separation wall constructed from non-combustible block concrete, or ICF. The text amendment is intended to change the description of the separation or common wall to reflect this fire separation rather than a fire wall. The exact proposed amendment of the development bylaw is to delete section 8.26.2B, which states, "The dwelling units are separated from the basement floor to the apex of the roof by a vertical firewall to meet the requirements of the National Building Code of Canada." That will be deleted, and it will be replaced with the following. "The dwelling units are separated from the basement floor to the underside of the roof sheathing by a vertical fire separation that is designed by a professional engineer or architect who is licensed to practice in the province of Prince Edward Island, with a minimum 1-hour fire resistance rating and constructed from minimum 140 millimeter masonry block wall or 150 millimeter core insulated concrete form wall or a 150 millimeter cast-in-place concrete wall, all reinforced to code and strength requirements and designed in such a way that the structural collapse of an adjacent unit will not contribute to the failure of the fire separation. So basically, what we're doing here is we're clarifying what's in the bylaw now to make it stronger and more clear and more functional. So that's the gist of the amendment.
Thank you very much, Dale, appreciate that. With that, I see what we have here is some structure diagrams that are on the screen. Now, I will open the floor up to any potential questions or comments from any members of the public as it relates to our planning department's proposal to update the wording of our zoning bylaw to better reflect the structural and engineering requirements of this type of feature in a semi-detached dwelling. Yes, sir.
Be curious. Between when the bylaw,
Just before you do,
Sorry.
just in terms of our process,
Mike.
in order to accurately
Yeah.
capture everything, just get your name and where you
sure,
reside.
Mike Montague, 11 Woodhouse Court.
Thank you very much, sir.
Between the time when the bylaw that's being amended was created and now, has there been any constructions that maybe would not meet with the amended code status right now?
It would meet with the bylaw as it exists right now prior to amendment.
It's a really good question, but just so I can understand, just so I can follow up on that. From what I understand, members of our planning and as well as our on the building side of things, staff have provided to developers and builders essentially an engineering document which reflects
Right.
what you're looking for already.
Correct.
This is just to bring our zoning bylaw up to speed with where the engineering is at. Is that
Correct.
fair to say?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And you'll notice on this drawing, right there where I pointed, it says firewall. That will be corrected as well to reflect the change.
Okay. You gonna go out and give these walls a good solid push?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. All right, anything else from the public here who are here? Okay, thank you very much. I understand that there are no written correspondence provided in advance. There had been an inquiry from a resident seeking more information on the proposed amendment, though no details provided. I understand as well, there's nothing on from no doubt our multitudinous online viewers, no comments or questions received to date. So in terms of next steps, our written comments will be received until 12 p.m. on Friday, March 7th, 2025, by email to dmckeigan@townstratford.ca or hand delivered to the Town Center Department. Planning Board will meet for discussion and recommendation to Council on March 31st, 2025. Council shall meet on April the 9th to consider the merits of the first reading, and if passed, Town Council will meet on May 14th, 2025 for the second reading and adoption should it make it that far. I do want to thank everybody for their efforts on this matter and for your attendance here. Again, as I noted, we don't get progress unless we get meaningful input, so I do appreciate that. I'll adjourn this portion of the public meeting. I appreciate our next item on the agenda is not scheduled to begin until 7 p.m. As such, I will recess this meeting until such time as we are due to start, as that's when the notification period was for.